record. Okay, thank you for reminding me. Uh, well, anybody remember what IP is?
Identified perpetrator.
Okay, good. What about IV?
Identified victim.
Okay, good. What is IR?
Um, Identified resolver.
Yes.
Uh,
Who is that? We answer everything for everybody. Very good. Jerry, right? Wow, man, you are A star student now. You answer
Stephanie.
for everybody. Okay. All right. Very
Stephanie.
good.
It's Stephanie.
Oh, Stephanie, I'm sorry.
It's
You did
okay.
identify yourself. I had to guess who is speaking in that. All right. Um, if someone has a childhood like this, how would you identify him to be? What kind of childhood this person has? Comfortable or uncomfortable childhood? What do you think?
Not very happy.
I'm sorry, is it not very happy or very happy?
Not very happy.
Oh, not very happy. Okay. So you got to identify your name first so that I know who you are.
Oh,
Uncomfortable, Wendy. Okay, what else? What do you think? What do you think of this person in his childhood? Uncomfortable and what? Highly withdrawn. Cherry, how did you come to this conclusion that he is highly withdrawn?
Because it's 70 is the peak, the highest of all, and also aggressive behavior is also the highest.
Yeah. So if the person is aggressive, then is he withdrawn?
Maybe depressed, can be bipolar or like sometimes withdrawn, sometimes aggressive, would
Okay.
swing.
Swing. All right. Actually, when you see that there's an uptick in the aggression, right, it's not so much a withdrawn. If there is a downtick in the aggression, there's a downtick in the attention problems, that means the person is actually isolating or withdrawn. Okay. In this case, he is actually is an aggressive person. He's more when he's angry, everybody will know that he's angry. As a child, he will throw tantrum and he will let everybody know that he's angry. He's an aggressive young boy. Okay, any other comments about this particular child? Repressed childhood. Okay, Teresa, how did you come to this conclusion that he has a repressed childhood? Give me your analysis.
Maybe he's
I like
being
that.
maybe he's being punished a lot, so that's why he's withdrawn, and then therefore the aggression behavior.
Okay. Well, I don't think he's a withdrawn person. It's what Joe said, that when the person is aggressive, they're expressive, not
Right.
withdrawn. I agree with her in that sense. But
Okay.
I am intrigued to, that you find him to be has a repressed childhood. Wow, it's like, phew, very analytical. Phew. Okay, most of you said that he has an uncomfortable childhood. Um, Jolene says this person has a very uncomfortable and insecure childhood. Yeah, highly withdrawn, maybe not. Okay, insecure, that's true. Withdrawn, depressed is high. How do you know she's depressed? Oh yeah, the depression is there. Okay, um, it's some somatic problem as well. Now let's look into this same person in his adolescent years. Okay, what do you think of these adolescent years? What do you think of this person when, as a child, his reaction to the trigger is aggression and seeking attention. Then when he moved into his adolescent years, he now shows some, is there some changes? Highly violent. Okay. So if someone who is repressed and is violent, they are not exploding, they actually implode rather than explode. Okay, that's the difference between the two. Someone who is withdrawn and then they get angry and they express it internally is called implosion. Okay, explosion is when you express it out and you let people know about your your unhappiness and all that. He can be violent, that's true. Stephanie, always get into trouble with authority. How did you come into that conclusion? Very interesting. But this person is explosive. Yeah, he's explosive. Cannot handle emotions well, all right? Has many unresolved anger, easily angered. Okay, always get into trouble. What else?
Dr. Tut, Cherie here. Can a person be implosive and explosive at the same time?
Yeah, usually the more withdrawn person will be implosive. The more expressive person will be explosive. They can in some ways, there are people who implode and then they explode. Okay, Wendy, when you say that he's impulsive at 90, that means he'll get into trouble with the law. Is that how you come into conclusion?
Yes, Dr. Tok.
Okay, all right, it can be, yes. And also because impulsiveness at 90%, and then the anger at 80%, hostile pleasure at 60%. So in a moment of impulse, what do you think can happen? So when the person is angry in a moment of impulse, what do you think can happen? A violent action. I can kill a person. All right. I think, before you marry someone, I get him to do this test. If you're not married, again, so that you know whether they are violent or not. Whether they're imploding or exploding. All right. Okay. Violent action. Breaking the law, okay, good. I cannot accept people's suggestion easily. Okay, Stephanie, that's great, but how did you come to that conclusion? When you do a test like this and when you're going to tell a patient, a client, you cannot take people's suggestion. They will tell you, how do you know? Okay, you have to explain. How did you come to that conclusion? And this is why I have to ask you, how did you come to your conclusion? This is an angry person. Okay, rigid thinking. Very good, very good. Rigid thinking and what? And what? Rigid thinking plus what that will cause this person to will not accept people's suggestion. Yes, close to help. That's true. When these two pillars are up, right? These two in the corner are up, that means you're looking at a very stubborn person. When it comes to, Charlene was asking, when it comes to high social rejection, does it mean he was rejected or he feels he's socially rejected? Well, both ways, because the question will ask whether they are friends and things like that. So it's both ways.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other analysis on this person? All right, any more opinions? Low guilt. What about low guilt that you point out, Cherie?
So likely to hurt people because low guilt, don't feel like guilty doing things, any harm to people.
Yeah, so they don't feel guilty at all, right? It's like it is people with low guilt has that kind of sense of entitlement. Yeah, possibly the sense of entitlement comes from two extreme upbringing. When a person upbringing is so comfortable to the point where he has everything, And as a result of that, it actually increases the low guilt. So it means it's a sense of entitlement. I can do anything I want because this is who I am. Whereas the other extreme of people who develop low guilt are those who are born in a povertized or uncomfortable environment where, life has been challenging for me since I was born. So I'm entitled to all this. I'm entitled to do this and all that. Then before it lower their guilt when they do something that's not right. Okay, failure feelings are so high. Maybe he felt he has not accomplished much. That's a good observation, Stephanie. Okay, very good. All right, some of you who send me your test, you come from a very good environment. It sounds, like your childhood is a dream for everybody. But then your low guilt and your impulsivity in your adolescent years shot up. It's like I mentioned, it's possibly because you grew up in a good environment, very comfortable environment. As a result of this, you can be impulsive and you can have low guilt because, this is your sense of entitlement. I can do anything I want. I don't have any sense of, care or bother, concern about finance or whatever, because I can buy this, my family can afford, and therefore I do things impulsively as a result of that. But the other extreme, as I mentioned, right, a person who grew up in a very poor environment or very uncomfortable or abusive environment, but then they feel that the whole world owes me because I grew up in this environment and I'm hated the world, and so I'm entitled to beat up, a bully, and kill, and do whatever they want. So, for those who are married already, too late to do this test. For those who are not yet married, when you are doing premarital counseling, right? When you're doing premarital counseling, get the couple each to do this test, the childhood, the adolescent, and the adult, so that you can help them to analyze what kind of background, that the person is marrying, what kind of baggage the person is marrying, because we bring our baggage into our marriage. We don't just marry the individual, we marry the individual and the baggages that you bring along.
Yeah, Dr. Todd Sherry here. People with autism, they're likely to have low guilt as well because they lack empathy.
Right. That part of the brain with empathy is not functioning, and also because for autistic people, the left and the right brain are not well connected. Like for I think all of you are not autistic here, based on our interaction. When our brain is fully functioning, the left and the right brain, there's highway that connects it, so that words, emotions, creativity and all that are, they're able to function together. But for the autistic brain, it's like there's the highway between the two is kind of jam up, and has limited functioning, limited transferring of highway between the right and the left brain. So they can understand the word on the left, but they just cannot express it creatively on the right. So everything becomes very rigid on the left, and then they cannot express it creatively on the right, and therefore they cannot communicate well. They dare not look at people in the eye, and everything becomes very, very too systematic for the autistic person.
Right. Sherry again, can they learn empathy?
Yes, I think everybody can learn that. I think that they can be trained, they can be taught. Life can change. Yeah, I think they can if they want to work hard. There are a lot of autistic. I know of a lot of autistic professors in the university in America, very intelligent people, and they were they're able to interact with the students, albeit you still have some remnants of the autistic behavior, but they were able to interact well. All right, now this same person, childhood, adolescent, and adult. Okay, what do you think of the adult here? What are you looking for in this adult graph? What are you looking for here? Still very impulsive. High A, yeah, that's right. can be impulsive. Very controlling. Okay, how do you come to that conclusion that this person is controlling?
He's type A, and he's really high on the scales, like probably 85.
Yeah, it's 85.
Yeah.
He's driving people crazy.
He's also a perfectionist as well. 70 is on the scale.
Right. So what does the rest think? Is some remnants, carry over behavior from the adolescent years, right? You can see that the failure feelings is at 70, and therefore that might also crush his self-esteem a little bit. And you can see that, always want to get things done quickly. Okay, how did you come to that conclusion, Wendy?
He is highly driven.
Okay, he's driven, all right.
Yeah, and perfectionist. His anxiety is at 75. So that I think he is pretty impatient, and he wanted to get things done quickly.
Okay, yeah. I think if you want to get something done, right, you get this person here, this person here. He will get it done. This person, this graph, he will get things done. He may feel a bit nervous when you ask him to do, but he will get it done. Any other comment? So you see that from the adult now is that person with emotional state anxiety, may need a bit of slowing down, and may need a bit of adjustment and all that. And also if this person can bring down his low self-esteem, that means believe in himself more, I think that will bring down the anxiety level very quickly. But this is a great improvement from the adolescent years. Because in his adolescent years, anger is at 80%. Now his anger is 65%, is going down.
Dr. Toh, Angie here.
Yes, Angie.
Can I just ask, like what Wendy said is a typical CEO. Is this graph like for the adulthood, like type A and then perfectionist? Is this a typical one for someone who's very driven and very success driven in that sense?
It sounds like it, yes.
So, but the low self-esteem is only 70.
Mm-hmm.
It should be lower, right?
It should be lower to have a better self-esteem. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The lower the low self-esteem, the better the confidence in the person. Yeah. And so this person perhaps is anxious. He's driven. He's anxious because his self-esteem is not in that healthy state. Though it's not exactly low in his self-esteem, but this is like, it could have been better.
Okay, and then Dr. Toh, one more question. If I look at the middle graph, close to help, right? How should I be reading it? So a higher reading of close to help means that he is very close to help, or he's not so close to help.
The higher the reading, the more he's close to help. That means he's not wanting to be helped at all.
Okay, understand.
Yeah. That means you look at that pillar, right? Rigid thinking and close to help. These two are high. That means you're looking at someone who can be quite stubborn, who insists on doing things on his own ways. There's no change. But this person has changed from that stubborn person to where he is now.
Okay.
So if you test someone who has a violent teenager like this guy here, and he's changed in his adult life, so there's hope for everybody. Yeah. And he's still changing, he's still improving, right? He's still, all of us are improving. Nobody has a perfect graph. That's why there's no name for this graph, right? There's no name like you are choleric or you are a sanguine, because you change. Your graph will change. When your lives change, your graph will change. All right. Okay. So, Robin, this is your graph. He actually allow us to use his graph for demonstration so that, you know, he can share his life with us. Robin, what changed from your childhood to your adolescence and then to your adult life? It seems that you kind of mellow in your adult life. What changed?
I would say when I was younger, I was very angry. Yeah, because
What
of
was the anger all
my-
about? I mean, yeah, what was the anger all about? Because the unresolved anger was at 80%.
yeah, I think
Passion
I
as
was
well.
angry. The anger was about where I grew up. The military started coming and overtaking our homes and everything that we owned, and I was very angry, and that was the reason I studied very hard to try to enter a military. I promised them that I will go into a military and kill them all. So that was my intention to enter military, was to kill them. But I failed because before you are 16, you have to apply for it. I applied for it and I got sick, so I couldn't. So that turned into so many problems as a teenager, 16, 17, 18, all that was in drugs. So at 18, that's where I got saved. I heard the gospel, and I was brought actually to Philippines. My father was there because I was so bad over here in Myanmar. So that's where I got saved in Philippines and started working towards, I think, a little more self-confidence and trusting in God. And so I would say the gospel, receiving Jesus, has changed to me. And I'm still improving, getting better. This year, I'm getting better, much, much better. So hopefully I'll be better. So what changed me will be becoming a follower of Christ. Yeah.
So from the guy who wants to join the army to kill the rest of the army, you became a pastor. Now you're going to join the army now to save them, right?
Yes. So everything's changed. I never wanted to help people. I only wanted to destroy it and hurt people. But becoming a pastor and a missionary, it changed totally. That you want to help people get better, like myself. So my testimony is, if anybody like me who was angry, wanting to kill, I've never killed a person, but I've killed so many animals, so many pets of people, just to make people angry and all that. And we had always a street fight, and if I rode a bus, I would not pay for the bus so that the bus driver will get angry so that I could fight him. So that was almost all my year. So, but becoming a pastor and a missionary has changed from wanting to hurt people to wanting to help people get better, like me. You know, anybody has a hope in Christ. I would say in Jesus, anybody and everybody have a hope to be better. So my life motto has now become be better to have a better life. So get better on yourself and you'll have a better life. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for being so brave to allow me to use your graph as a sample here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm getting to know
what a wonderful
myself
story,
more and
isn't it?
more.
Everybody's saying, huh?
Yeah,
You
I still drive people crazy even these days.
That's because you've been
I'll be
driving,
better.
right? That's why you drive people crazy. So when I'm in Yangon, you did not drive me crazy. You were driving very politely. All right. Next one. This is another person. What kind of childhood this person has? What do you think of this person's childhood? Insecure? Okay, how did you come to that conclusion? Again, the attention problem is zero, and that means the person doesn't want attention, but as an uptick on that aggressive behavior. What do you think?
It seems like Charlene here. It
Okay.
seems like he or she was quite withdrawn, and there's some fear in her or him. So I thought maybe she's experiencing some insecurity.
Yeah. Okay. It's obvious that he's insecure, but his reaction to insecurity is not to seek attention. It is to show his power in aggressive behavior. And this is his, wow. This is his adolescent years. Everything in the north. So it's a northern alliance. He can join the Taliban. What do you think? Oppositional defiant, yes. And this is adult life. See, from that high on violence, his emotions, everything went down, anger, depression, even his self-esteem has also improved because the low self-esteem is now low, and only his anxiety is high. That's the anxiety is a remnants of his past. So sometimes we still have work to do on our life. And yes, this is Tom. Tom, are you there? No, he's no longer there. He's on the road, actually.
Yes, I am here.
Tom, you are here. This is your score, man. This is your score. Thank you for allowing us to look at this, because we need to look at all this in order for us to be more familiarized with this graph, so that you can understand. Tom, why are you so angry as a teenager?
Yeah, when I was 80 years old, my mom died, and I was living with my grandmother, and my daddy was working far away from home. It's like a long distance, like from another country. When I was living in the village, there's no labor or no man at your household. People look down upon you. So I was treated badly with my childhood. So when I grew up, when I was a teenager, I thought I'm going to kill all the people they hurt me or hurt my family. So
You're
I was
to kill people?
violent. Yeah, and I had a lot of friends. I like joined the gang with a group of violent teenagers. We did all kinds of evil things. Stealing because I was hungry all the time without parents. I was hungry and I was mad, and I was fighting to approve. I am a giant among the people. Yeah, so that's my childhood, and life changed after I received Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow.
I read the Bible, and there's even no preacher, no pastor, but I received the Lord. So after a while, I got the opportunity to go to the seminary and be trained. And now I'm serving the Lord, and I believe every day the Lord and His Word is changing me, changing my life gradually. And I think the anxiety is from my childhood, and also probably because my situation here in China. Yeah, it's so, yeah. My wife even told me, even without the happy test, she said you have too much worries. Yeah, I think it's also because my work, my ministry here in China, the situation here. So that's why I'm always very alert.
You know what Stephanie is saying? If you want to be a pastor, you ought to have the idea to kill people, then you become a pastor. That's a qualification. Both you and Robin, man. What a story. What a change, in your life, Tom. What a change. I'm glad I met you as an adult and not when you were a teenager.
Yeah, and also I'm so thankful the Lord saved me. Like my childhood friend, my teenagers, some of them were killed, some of them are paralyzed now, and I am still healthy and strong and serving the Lord.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm glad you left the gang and joined a new gang here. It's called the Jesus Gang. All right, so the moral of the story tonight is that if you want to be a pastor, go and kill some people first. Okay, I'm kidding. This is recorded. For the record, I was kidding. Okay, I was kidding. Don't take this too seriously. All right, any other comments from any one of us regarding all this kind of graph here? You can see that, when you ask a person to do a graph like this, it exposes the childhood, exposes the adolescent years and the age, and then it determines their adult life. And in this case, in Tom's case, the childhood is not comfortable, and he's extremely violent. So the predictability factor, the trajectory of Tom having this kind of, this kind of graph, right? Having this kind of graph, the trajectory is that the happy test will not be like this. That's the trajectory. The happy test will be one that's angry, one who's depressed, or one who is anxious, or whatsoever, one who is highly reactive. But it seems that the trajectory of Tom's graph has changed tremendously. So if you're already married, that's fine. You cannot do the test on your prospective spouse, but you can do this test on your prospective son-in-law or prospective daughter-in-law. Get them to do the test. Then you can decide. Well, this one no good for you. I want to kill people. Any other question? A potential business partner, yes, Joe. Potential business partner, even employee. Employee, maybe not. Business partner, yeah, possibly. Why not employee? I think it's too. I would think it's too much digging into the privacy of someone working for you. Maybe. Yeah, too intrusive. Partners, business partners, maybe you need to check a bit about the person. Yeah. Obviously, the one that you're going to marry, is something that is going to be for a lifetime. Yeah, it's good to check it out, right? Check it out. But then if you check it out and stop at Tom's adolescent years, that this guy is violent now. You say you will not marry him. That means you're not giving him a chance to change. True? Right? You got to give him a chance. Like Tom's wife, right? Tom's wife gave Tom a chance. That's why Tom is still married. All right. First question we need to ask is, who am I? And in a marriage family therapy situation, the individual plays a very important role in the marriage. So the individual actually bring the baggage of the past into their current. And some of us may be wounded in our past, and therefore those wounds are being carried forward into our new relationships. You know, there's a saying, if we don't heal what hurt us, we will bleed on those who are innocent towards our wounds. So, you know, sometimes we call that projection. You know, because of our past, we become a bit more insecure as a result of that. You know, we project that to our relationships. I think for those of us who know me, you know, I've been promoting this triangle. Yeah, I think this is so important that we are made of tripart being the body, which is in Greek is soma, soul is a suki. This is where we have the English word psychology from, and then pneuma, that's a spirit. So we are all tripart being, and our body is where we receive all our interaction and information. So what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we touch, and what we taste, right? Whatever that our five senses collect, it will go into our soul, which is our mind. Our mind, which then, you know, transfer that into emotions. When we hear something that we don't like, that means something activate in our soul, right? The word suki is where we have the English word psyche. A lot of medical terminology lends very heavily from the Greek language. And so soma is today in the medical term, soma means body. So if you are diagnosed as having a psychosomatic problem, that means you have a physical ailment which is a result of your thought process, psychosomatic. Right? It may not be a real physical problem, but it could be a problem of the mind. And so if we are hurt by an information and we don't process it well, we begin to internalize it, and we became now filled with this anger. Our entire being is filled with our soul, and then our soul project our body to act. And now people know that we are angry, because this is where we start shouting, we start hammering, we start, you know, pounding our fists on the table and all that. So now our five senses are shut down as a result of this, because information gets into our five senses. It's collected through our five senses, and then it goes into our mind, which is the soul. And when we don't like what we heard, we process it. We shut down our five senses. We no longer want to hear anything. We no longer want to eat. We no longer want to smell. This is where we stop seeing from other people's perspectives about what's going on. We only want to see it from ourselves, because we internalize it, right? That's why our five senses shut down. Show an angry person their favorite food. Give them their favorite food when they're angry. You know what? They will throw it away, because their five senses shut down. This is where bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness begin to play out in the person's soul. And so if the person has all this bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness, they are naturally very negative about, you know, their being. So they're very soulish, yeah, very soulish in that sense. Because if we look at body, soul, and body, so there's two parts instead of three parts. So they are just communicating within the two parts, rather than having the spirit in them. It's just a very soulish behavior. We call that soulish. For instance, Miss A has a very soulish lifestyle because of her past. She's bitter. She's resentful, she's full of negativity. And then she met Mr. B, who fell in love with her. They both fell in love with one another. Mr. B, maybe innocent, you know, found this Miss A attractive, and they then got married. When they got married, the soul began entangled with one another. And then Mr. B becomes frustrated, you know, and then Mr. B becomes like Miss A, and both of them are now acting soulishly. They're no longer, you know, in love with one another. Now the soul is actually, you know, interfering with their love, and then they go their separate way. When they go their separate way, their spirit is different, separate. Their body is separate. You know, they live separately. They're not praying together. But what ties them at this stage is their soul. Even though Miss A may move to Los Angeles in America and Mr. B may move to Kuala Lumpur, they can be living thousands of miles apart, but their soul are still entangled together. Once their soul is still entangled, we call this soul ties. So whatever happened between Miss A and Mr. B, it will have a strong determinant on both of their choices thereafter. So these soul ties became part of our psyche. And so Miss A now find Mr. C. Guess what happened? The soul ties, that whatever happened between Miss A and Mr. B will determine her relationship with Mr. C as a result of this. So when you marry a person, when you are going into partnership with a person, you may be entangled, not just with the physical person, you may be caught entangled with the soul of the person, because the person's soul can be filled with so many people that is in there, that's stuck, that's residing in the mind of the person. So some people don't just have one, yeah. Some people have plenty of people that are stuck in their soul, and as a result of that, you know, they become so hurt, they become so bitter that everything in life is negative, everything in life is very soulish to them, very reactive emotionally. So if Miss A just come out of that bitterness separation from Mr. B, and then she found Mr. C, then immediately she tied on to Mr. C. Now this is called the rebound case, right? We all know what rebound case is all about. And so Mr. C is seen as a crutch for Miss A to get over her pain of separating from Mr. B. So Mr. C now is a crutch, not necessarily a person that Miss A actually fell in love with. She just need that support, that emotional support that she may need, that she feel that she needs someone to love, and then she wants someone to love her so that she can feel that I'm still lovable despite of what Mr. B had done to me. So there are many of these cases that result in divorces because of the past soul ties. So I have a case of this woman and this man who met at a bar, and he was divorcee, but they met at a bar, and she was the divorcee. He was single, and they met at a bar, and he was flirting with a woman, and he was flirting with her, and they fell in love, and they have premarital sex, and then they got married. So every time the husband come home late from work, she will become so paranoid, and she will then be screaming her head off, and be every night they will fight, because as long as she's not seeing her husband home, she will fight with him. And so when I tried to investigate actually how they first met, and when she told me that they met in a bar and he was flirting, I said then that your soul is tied to that event. That every time he's out, you're imagining him in the bar flirting with other women, and that's got you so paranoid, and that's why you're in constant conflict with your husband. And it doesn't help if the husband is really out there, not coming home at night, and philandering and drinking in a bar and things like that. It's not helping to allay her insecurity. All right, comment and question. I need to be mindful of the time. Nice. Comment and question. So can you hear me now? Yes, okay, good. Thank you. With a lot of noise. I'm not sure where those noise comes from. Um, all right. Toilet flushing. Now little noise. Freezing sound. I think my computer is the fan. Possibly is a fan. What about now? Still has a sound. Louder. Okay. Ooh. I'm not sure where this comes from. All right. Okay. Um, comment, question.
Dr. Fred, Joe here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, how did you manage to resolve the case of the wife feeling so insecure because her memory is anchored on that him flirting at the pub?
Well, I think you have to deal with NP, the negative presupposition. That's the killer of most people's emotions and mind, because every time we negatively presuppose something that's happening, and when in reality it is not, and that's really the cause of a lot of all these unnecessary conflict. And also the husband do need to play the role of letting her know where he is and all that, and the husband had to work in allaying her anxiety. And obviously the husband loved her, and therefore he promised that if he comes home from late if he comes home late from work, he will let her know where he is and all that. At the same time, the wife will also need to work on her MP, and look at possibilities rather than looking at negativity from her MPs. So it's a lot of challenges in the changing of the belief system, and also to allow that past to um, allow the past to just um, be in the past, and let's work towards what's in the future and things like that. What is GP tracking? I think it's coming from mine, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure why it's having this sound, but all right. Any other comment, question? So we do need to operate from the tripartite that we all are. One of the things that we need to know is to, you know, go after our spirit. Our spirit is that sense. It is not, you are not a religious person, then you might see spirit as your goal in life and the things that you want to do for yourself. And when you are operating from the spirit, not just from the soul, and then there's some clarity. Time heals, being open to help heals, and forgiveness does heal, of course. Having a new destiny heal person, and a religious experience like what Tom and Robin had, those experiences that actually um, healed them and changed their perspective from being that person who's so angry. They now change in their perspective of life, and their five senses are open, so they are willing to help rather than hurt others. And then this is where, when a person is able to be released from their past, then they're free, free to love again, free to accept another person into their life. And this is where the marriage may be in the process of healing. Questions about wounds? Now, a lot of people fall in love, but they don't look into their identity. They don't look into their wounds. They think that love, you know, is blind, and love can cover everything. But then the thing is that it's love. Love is not blind. Love is mad. When you fall in love, you become mad. After the day after your wedding, right? Then the sanity returns, because while you're falling in love, while you're in love, or while you are being infatuated, you're mad. You're madly in love with this person, and therefore you're mad. Okay. Question.
Dr. Fred, Kim here. How to break the ungodly soul ties? If it's for pre-believer especially.
If it's Some people do it if they allow time, for instance, time to heal. So while you're under healing, when you're going through healing, it's best not to go into a relationship or make any important decision that will last a lifetime. So let time be the healer. Being open is another way that a person can release from the soul ties. So, you know, we are also counseling people who may not be religious, may not be what we are, like Tom and Robin. But then we have to help them, to move beyond just a soul. They get them to be a spirit. Spirit is that goal and that motivation in life. This is where what I want to be, and things like that. So um, time is a good healer. You allow time to heal, but how long it takes, nobody knows, right? It all depends on the individual. And being open then rather than close is also critical towards healing and getting ourselves free from those soul ties. Because when the person is tied to the soul of the past, which is a negative, right? The five senses shut down. When the five senses shut down, then they're unable to relate with others better, because they stop seeing from other people's perspective. So openness is very important, and then we need to do motivational interview for them to learn how to open up. And forgiveness is one of the best keys. As I mentioned on our first session, if we hold on to our past and we are chained, we cannot give. When we hold on to this, we, our hands become too busy that we cannot give love, we cannot share, because we just hold on to this. So forgiveness is to let go. And this whole episode of forgiveness that I've done, maybe I should put it up on the website, on the resource page about forgiveness, because this is key. The power of forgiveness. They're having a new destiny, meaning, hey, this is your past. What is Fred 2.0 looks like? Can we design a Fred 2.0? So this is where your book should have chapters, because most people who live a very sorrowful life, their entire book is one big chapter. That means it never ends. It just go on and on and on and on. The misery just go on and on and on. So today we're going to put a full stop to the chapter, and we're going to start a new chapter. So the new chapter means something new in you, and it's you don't have to end the book, but you end the chapter. So if you want to create a new chapter, for instance, tomorrow you wake up, it's a new chapter in your life. What do you call this new chapter? What do you call this new chapter? I call this the new Fred, and free from my pain, how I become free from my pain. And therefore, then I write into the chapter how I want to be free from my pain, what I can do to be free from my pain, right? This is what I ask my patients to do the homework. This is your new chapter. You write a new book. Write a new chapter rather than a new book. This is your book. Your old chapters are experience that you can learn from, and now you can start a new chapter. What do you call this new chapter? Let's call it, give it a name, and then let's put in the points and pointers, so that you can look at this and say, this is what I want to become. New destiny is important. Of course, religious experience will also have that.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm muting everybody in case you want to talk. Is a hissing sound still there?
Yes.
I'm not sure what it was, but whatever it was, hopefully it's not interfering with too much with our lesson.
Dr. Fred, Jaslyn here.
Uh-huh.
Jaslyn here.
Okay.
Okay. If some like to say that they forgive, but they are not able to forget. When they share, when they are not able to forget, actually they have not truly forgive, right? Because they still remember. No.
No, I think it's impossible to forget. It's hard to forget.
Counsel them to forget.
It's impossible to forget. You tell a person you must forget. You must forget. Then they must remember what to forget. Your mind will play up what you need to forget. When your mind play up more the things that you need to forget, it stays in your memory. It's impossible. In fact, it's cruel to a point. It's to a point of being cruel to the person to ask them to forgive and to forget, because a lot of time it is impossible to forget. It's easy that this whole idea concept of forgiveness is so misunderstood. Forgiveness is not for the other party. Forgiveness is for myself. So I cannot forget my past, but I can change. I can change my assessment of the past from a painful experience. I can convert that into a learning experience. So, um, so every time I tell my patient to to forgive, I say you don't have to forget. Then you need to look at your situation from another perspective. If my client can answer a question about their past, and if they can answer it from the perspective of that, from the perspective that is becoming a learning perspective, then there is some changes in the person. So the question I would normally ask is, it may sound insensitive, I would tell them, it may sound insensitive, but this is the question I need to ask to find out where you are. What good came out of that bad episode? What good came out of the bad episode? If they say nothing good, okay, they're still bitter, and they're still resentful, and they are still unforgiving. If they begin to say, okay, maybe I was too impulsive into entering this kind of into this relationship. I knew this man wasn't good for me, but I was lonely. I could have. Okay. I learned a good lesson. Now, when the person began to say things like this, you will see that the person is now slowly being set free from the past and being cut from that soul ties. But as long as the person keep harping on the past from a very negative perspective, so they become a cave person, right? Caveman, CAVE, complain about virtually everything. If they complain about virtually everything all the time, they're still stuck in the past. So my question to you is, when you think of something that you have unable to let go, what good came out of that situation? If there is something good that came out of the situation, then there's some evolution that's already taking place in your mindset about that episode. If you still blame the person for all this, oh, my life is so terrible because of him, and all that. So if we continue with this complaining, that means you are stuck. You're not only not forgiving, you're not forgetting. So we are not calling the person to forget. We're calling the person to change the perspective and to change their appraisal of the event from a painful experience to a learning experience. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, understand. Thank you.
Yeah, what good came out of that situation? Good one. That's what Robin said. So Robin can answer that question, right? What good came out of those angry moments when the soldier came in and took away all your stuff and all that? What good came out of those situations? Robin, putting you in a spot.
What good came out of was I study hard because in order for me to go into military and straight away to get a start, I had to pass high school at a very young age before 16. And so that was a good thing that came out of it. And I studied very hard and I passed all the exams, sometimes with even with first and second in the whole school and all that. So because I studied hard, I was driven. So that was a good thing that I see that came out of it.
You see, if you see something good that came out of that bad episode, then you move on quickly, like Robin did, rather than continuing in the hopping of the event. You know, these soldiers are bad. They are bad. They stole everything from me. They are terrible people. And today I want to take my revenge. And therefore, you're still hurting, and your soul is still being tied to that past, and so you're chained. You are chained to that in the past. And once you're chained, you know, you're not free. Third question is, okay, you know, when we try and counsel a couple, we need to know the identity of the respective, you know, parties that made up the family, the protagonist, in short. Did they bring in the old wounds? Was this conflict, this situation, a result of an old wound that may have caused them to go into this? Now, if they can recognize this, are they willing to work? If you recognize that your past is causing all this conflict, are you willing to work to change? Because no matter how good the psychologist may be, if the client is refusing to work, nothing works. No, I give up this marriage. I'm going. I'm out of this. I don't care about this. No, I'm not willing. No. If they're not willing, there's nothing much there's nothing you and I can do about this marriage.
Dr. Fred Kim here. So in such a case, should we encourage the spouse to stay on, or if let's say the other party refuse to change in a way?
Well, I think as a pastor, if you are doing a religious counseling in the church, then as a pastor, you have the right to get the other party to hang on. But as a professional, then the decision is the patient's or the client to make. And we can try to convince them to work in the marriage. And this is where we're going to go into this thing called motivation interview now. And you can try and convince them to change and to work. Because without their willingness to work, then, you know, nothing we say or try to do will work in that session. So, for instance, I had once a woman, and actually an Indian woman, who came in with a large hat, and I thought, wow, this is a horse racing day today, man. It's like the Kentucky Derby. Give me a big hat, and she sat down, and then she removed her hat. When she removed her hat, there was a bruise on her head, and I was like, what happened? And she began to sob and cry and said that my husband abused me and flung a chair at me and things like that. In that situation, do we send her back to the family home, and for him to abuse her further. That's a tricky thing, you know. And in that situation, I told her that I will not, send you home. In fact, I had to send you to the hospital, and then you have to make a report on this because there's no way that I can send you home. Because if I send her home and the husband abused her again, this time the husband actually killed her, I will be guilty of abetting, not reporting a crime. Question, you're all very silent, look very shocked. Suppress background noise. Okay, I'm suppressing background noise. Is it better?
Oh, good. The noise is gone.
Oh, so all this while I put it to auto for suppress background noise, so it should be high and then it suppress all background noise. Very good. Woo-hoo. Thank you. What's your name? Tristan. You are my savior. All right. Come in. Do you send a victim, and this apparently this is an IV, who has been physically abused, back home to her husband and said, no, you should work it out? Now that's an ethical question.
Did you ask a question?
Yeah, I'm asking a question. Thank you for your enthusiasm.
Can you ask again?
Do you send an IV, in this case, someone who has been physically abused by the husband, back to the marital home?
No. When there's a physical abuse, no.
What does the rest do? Nope.
What if, sorry, Dorothy, this is Chilling. So I just wonder if, let's say you decided that it's not safe for her to go back home, but the victim says that she wants to go home, then what can we do?
Because it comes to our knowledge about this case, you don't have to sign a paper that you are not taking my advice, and or I have to send you to the hospital right now. Because if there is a crime that's been committed, like physical abuse that's been committed, right, you don't report the case, you are abetting the crime.
Just can I share thoughts here, Joe? Okay. Usually for a victim who has been physically abused and still want to go back to that place, either they...
Yeah. What about verbal abuse?
Sorry,
and it came to a point where the victim wanted to commit suicide. So how to handle?
Okay, just
and they both didn't want to see pastor, counselor, things like that.
All right, Kim, can you hold on to your question? I think was it Joe that was?
Cannot hear.
Joe,
yeah, I'm still here. I can hear perfectly.
Okay, Joe, can you finish your question or your thought first? Then we'll have Kim to come in.
Yeah, no, I was just responding to Shirley's questions about the patients who is physically abused and still want to go back to the place that's unsafe. So this is my thoughts. Usually when that happens, because they do not know where else to go, number one. Number two, there could be some fear factors, some threats. Maybe because their children is at home, and then they're afraid if they go, what happened to their children. So usually these are the factors. Otherwise, they wouldn't willingly go back to their environment. Yeah.
If the safety of the children are in question, all the more they need to report to the police. Oh yeah, all right, Kim, can you continue your question? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I couldn't hear just now. No, how about if it's verbal abuse?
Okay.
It's a perpetual thing to the extent that the IV is at the verge of taking her own life. And the IV couldn't afford to see a psychology, and the IP didn't want to see anybody. And the IV seen some church people and friends like me, but we cannot help. So.
Well, I think she can go to the hospital, and I think in cases like this, if they cannot afford, then we can always do pro bono for them. If the situation is bad, like what Tristan is saying, go to family violence center. I think there's one in Ang Mo Kio that is, I think it's not much, $5, $10, or it's being subsidized heavily by NCCY or something like that. And so you can refer the case to them, because like what Kristen rightly said, emotional abuse, even verbal abuse is an abuse. So if the person is contemplating suicide, then means the abuse has has resulted in a negative outcome, and so the person can report to go to the center in Ang Mo Kio, where there are counselors and psychologists there to attend to her.
But I think the thing is also she is quite fearful that the marriage will be gone the minute she does that, because from the sound of it, it's like she realized that she has no ground. She's fighting a losing battle. So
hey, Tristan, all right, man. Tristan is helping me here. Challenge her IB, that's irrational belief. Tristan, my assistant. Yeah, I think this is an IB. This is an irrational belief. Her life is more important right now, and she believes that she is unable to. She believes that there's no option for her but to accept that. To accept that. To accept the abuse, which is not the right thing to do. I would think that the man the IP needs help, but the IP will never, no IPs will want to go and see a counselor, right? Because they will walk in and say, I'm the IP, I'm the one who abused her. Nobody will do that. They will be benign, they will then avoid being scrutinized by counselors. That, but this case can only be helped by authorities as a result. Because if she is suicidal, then you should take up the case as critical, because if she commits suicide, and those who are trying to help her will feel very, very guilty.
Thank you.
So there are several family service centers that she can go to. In fact, most of these are almost free, if I'm not wrong. She can go and seek help from those places. So again, her unwillingness to work is possibly due to some irrational belief that if I complain about my husband, my marriage is gone. And so she want to continue that abusive marriage in spite of the fact that she is the one who is the IV. something is not right there. Something is not connected in that sense. So she needs to have someone to really talk to her about this. So you measure the willingness of the person based on these two things, right? Willingness and competency. So when the person is willing and able, then means this client perfectly easy to work with because they're willing to participate and they have the ability to do whatever that you ask them to do. Some people are willing, but they're unable. That means, yeah, I need help. I need help. It's just that I don't know what to do. These two willing and the yellow and the green box people, very easy to work with. Very easy to work with. Okay. So you don't need to do a motivational interview to convert them to work with you. The challenges are those like who are competent, they're able, they can do it, but they're not willing. They're able to come to counseling, but they're not willing. They're able to let go of the third party, but they're not willing. So these are the more challenging clients. Okay, they are able, but they are unwilling, and there are those who are unwilling and unable. This one very sorry case. Right? They don't know what to do, but they're not wanting to be helped. Okay, now so for these people here, especially the unwilling, the red box and the blue box, the unwilling and unable, unwilling, able, the unwilling, unable people, you have to do this thing called MI, motivational interview. So when they are unwilling, when they're unwilling and they're unable, they're unwilling and able, unwilling and unable, whatever that you want to do, hey, don't do this lah. They will not listen. You're wasting your breath. You're not setting a common agenda for that session because you want them to do something, but they're not willing to do it. So motivational interview, you can come in and tell them about the disadvantages of the status quo. If you remain this way, obviously you're not happy. That if there is a possibility of changes, positive changes, if we try to work hard together, would you take that chance to work with me on this? Because this change can lead to happiness, freedom, and all that. The reason why you're unhappy is because of this situation. If you remain like this, you're not going to be happy. If we have a possibility of changing your life, it requires work between you and I. I'm willing. Are you? So we're trying to convince them to change, but we're not doing it as a top-down person. Like, you must change. You stink. That's why you need to change. We ask, what if there's a possibility of changing the status quo, that it will result in you feeling a lot better than what is going on now? Would you take that chance? You know what? I'm willing to work with you as hard as I can towards that change. I need you to participate. I need you to be willing. And together, you and I, we're going to work hard and take you out from where you are today. So this is a form of MI rather than, hey, go back home, don't do this anymore. And the person's like, okay. So it's like you are trying to set an agenda, but they're not willing to participate. They're just listening to you. They're not willing to work. MI is a method of communication. It's not panic, it's the way you speak. It resolves ambivalence and move towards change. I think these are not in your hand that tonight. I just give it extra. I'm going to put it up tomorrow morning so we can have this. And MI avoids authoritarian top-down communication. Like, you must do this. No, you cannot do this. No, it is communication. It is motivating the person to change or to willing to into a willingness to change. Even if they are unable, but they're willing. Oh, good, good, very good, very good. But if once there's this element of unwillingness, nothing good. So as a family marriage therapy, you cannot do anything to help that marriage if the protagonists in that family, that marriage, are unwilling to help, are unwilling to participate. So they must be the one working with you and not you working for them. So, for instance, in Kim's case about the woman who is in that abusive marriage or relationship and all that, she dare not report to the police and all that. So now you do this motivation interview. What if there's a possibility that things can change for the better? Rather than just what you thought that is going to end in misery. What if it can change for the better? Would you really be willing to do that? Would you be willing to participate? Would you be willing to seek help? Would you be willing to talk about this? What if? So, in other words, we use a lot of what ifs rather than you should. Because if this woman who is depressed, suicidal, we tell them you should, then you're putting them in a quandary, like they have no choice. They are no better than anybody. So we give them the choice. What if? And when you tell them that there's a possibility if we work together, that things may turn out better. If things turn out better, would that be fine? Would that be good? Now I need your participation. So that means you get them to say, okay, I'm willing to work. That's it. Then you move them into that willing column here. Otherwise, if they're unwilling, you're just wasting your breath, you're wasting our time, you're wasting energy and all that. And some people even waste their money trying to see, counselors like ourselves. Number one, a motivational interview, don't impose. Number two, don't judge. Number three, most importantly, in motivational interview, don't curse. I know you say, what curse? Who curse? We don't curse. We are good Christians. We are good people. I believe you're all good Christians. Okay, you're very good. Okay, very good. But if you advise, if you impose something to help another person and they refuse to take that suggestion from you, you know what will come into our mind? Even we may not speak. I told her not to marry the man. You see that one day, the man will abuse her. Then she know that I'm right. But by saying this, I'm actually cursing the marriage not to work. And when we have those things, right, we send out a very negative vibes. And the person who received this, even though you did not say that, if they went ahead to marry the man against your suggestion, and when the marriage actually didn't work, they will not come back and see you. Because if they come back to see you, you will say, I told you, I told you, I know, I told you. Nobody wants to go back to a person who will say, I told you so. So, okay, you don't impose, you don't judge, you don't curse. At the end of the day, if there is an opportunity for change, changes means freedom, changes means you're happier than what you are today, would you take that? And if they say no, I'm going to go back. It's your choice, but I'll be praying to you. Let me know if there are anything I can do to help you. Rather than, see, you don't listen, and stubborn, go back home, your husband abused you again, don't come and see me anymore. No, that's cursing. You know what? Parents are very good at this. I told you right. I told you to study harder, right? You see, play computer games now, you feel excited. I told you right. How many parents are guilty of this? How many parents are guilty? Okay, you don't confess. Okay, Jolene, you confess. I was just about to tell you don't confess, but okay, you have been honest. So the whole purpose of MI is to convert the person from the unwilling bracket into the willingness bracket. So you will bring them into that willingness bracket. Comment, question? This is a very important skill because in family therapy, because very, very often when two party in the marriage has problem, only one wants to stick up, the other one refuses. And usually the one who refuses is the IT. And therefore you gotta practice, this MI to convince the party to be willing to work at this new possibility, this chance that we can have a better marriage or be happier by working together. Okay, comment, question?
Dr. Fred Jesslyn here.
Yes, Jesslyn.
Happen if let's say they have also cases where I have heard, they were one party is willing, the other party is not, but they will tell you, okay, I do it for the sake of the children.
And then?
Then I'll see what can be done, like something like this. So how do you?
I think it's better than nothing. I think it's better than nothing. I'm so proud of you that you are willing to do it because your children are important. And I'm glad that you are able to come to an agreement that you are willing to be helped, you're willing to seek help, and you're willing to come in. I think that's a great thing because your children are important and you are a good father or you're a good mother because you think on behalf of your children. And that's great. I'm so proud of you. It's called validation, right? So when you validate a person, I think it's good if they want to come in because of their children. At least that's the first step. What's your concern then, Jeffrey?
But they will tell you like there's no more love. There's no more love for the husband. It's only for the children.
Okay, is there no more love or is there bitterness that interfere with love? Is there anger that interferes with love? Is there unforgiveness that interferes with love? Love is this, but once love is enveloped by all this negativity, then what you're feeling is all this negativity. But then, we need to remove this in order for love to surface. What if there's a chance for this love to resurface? Would you be willing to do that? So my eyes is shifty because I'm seeing through screen, seeing all of you in this screen and looking at my presentation in this screen. Does that help answer your questions, Jasmine? Love is a decision, it's not a feeling. Wow, Sherwin, you can write a book about this, man. Love is a decision, not a feeling. Even without passion, I believe husband and wife can be like friends. Right. Actually, love is a verb. Love is not a noun. Noun is like a terminology, right? Love is a verb. Love is an action word. Okay. When we love somebody, it's a verb. You gotta do something. You gotta work at it. So it's not a feeling. Thank you for that question, Jasmine. Anyone else? All right, this is the case study I want to break you into your groups to do. Mr. and Mrs. X are having a marital crisis due to Mr. X's repeated EMA. EMA is extramarital affair. Mr. X denied having sexual relationship with any of his girlfriends and see nothing wrong in chatting and lunching with them. Found his wife too possessive and paranoid. Is tired of the jealousy and want a separation. Okay, you want to take a picture of this, so because when you go into your group, you want to discuss this. Okay. Uh, so Mr. and Mrs. X are having a marital crisis due to Mr. X's repeated EMA. That's the presenting problem. But when Mr. X talked about the problem, he says, uh, no, I don't have any sexual relationship with any of my girlfriends. What's wrong with chatting, texting, lunching with girlfriends? I mean, what's wrong? Oh, she's still paranoid, she's still possessive. I'm so tired of this, and I don't want this marriage anymore.
Dr. Fred, this is Cherie. My question here is, it says here Mr. X denied having sexual relationship, but in actual fact, does he have sexual relationship?
Well, we are not going
his girlfriends.
We're not going to. We're not going to be an investigator or police officer. Did you? Well,
No, for this case study. For this case study. So what is the fact?
Well, we're not giving you the fact, because a lot of time when the person deny in the counseling room, there's no way you can say, did you not? Did you not? Until unless they can produce evidence, we have to, look at the whole situation from here. The problem is not the problem. It is the person that's the problem. So we can change the person rather than change the situation. So we will never need to find out whether there are sexual intimacy with his or her girlfriend, because obviously they will deny. Okay, I hope that helped you in dealing with this case. So I want you to practice. I want you to practice. When you go to your group, how to do MI with this husband. How to do MI with this husband. Yeah, Indra said when they come to counseling, they won't tell the facts. Yeah, because Indra experiencing this one, oops. Kidding, of course. All right. Now, so when you look at the case, I want you to practice MI. I'm using this case as an MI case. Let me. Okay, children and all that. No, this information not important now. Okay, just practice. Just assume that this is Mrs. X. Happy test. What do you think of her? This is Mr. Mr. X, not Mrs. X. Yeah, this would be Mr. X. I thought I changed that. This is Mrs. X childhood. This is Mr. X childhood. This is Mrs. X adolescent years. This is Mr. X adolescent years. Okay. Get out of the frame. If you want to take a picture of this, because we're going to discuss this as a group. Do a screenshot or whatsoever. And what do you think of the two of them? Are they compatible? Are they okay? Is there hope in this marriage? All right, you take a picture of this. All right, okay. Analyze the graph, explain the conflict areas, and then try. When you practice, you've not learned how to counsel the conflict and all that, resolve the conflict. Maybe you want to learn how to do the MI, convince Mr. X is not the willing party, to what is and all that. All right. Okay. What's so small? Take a picture of this. This is a big picture here. Unless you're seeing it from a phone, do a screenshot. Okay, you have 15 minutes. I'm going to break you into your groups and So once you see a prompt in your on your device, just say click join, okay? All right, so any comment from your group, your sessions? Everybody's still in the room. Okay, you're all back. Good. Comment, question? Easy to do, MI? You nailed it, right? You nailed it, nailed it.
PMI was hard.
So any questions about this this case?
So how do we do an MI with husband not to separate?
You asked me, I thought I'm giving you the assignment. So what do you think?
we just concluded for our group that the wife loves the husband so much, that's why she's so jealous of maybe the husband may not necessarily having sexual relations with other girls. Maybe he's just having casual chats, but the wife is so jealous that since she's very strong on also on anxiety and anger, she's kind of CEO type, as one of our group members says. So I would say to the husband, your wife loves you so much, please don't separate.
That's coming.
Dr. Fred, just to check, Cheling here. I realized the husband is high in perfectionist and then low in type A. So does it mean that this Mr. X has unrealistic expectation of whatever is in his life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether you're able to see the screen. What kind of childhood this Mr. X has?
Very spoiled.
How do you know?
Every part of him was like low for the first 4 bar, and then suddenly he wants a lot of attention. So which means that he's a very spoiled child.
Wow.
And then on his teenage years, he has this impulsivity and also low guilt. So it also means that he's probably still very spoiled.
Right. Okay. What did I say about someone who grew up in a family where the situation is easy for them?
Wendy here.
Very
Demanding.
entitled. I'm sorry?
Entitlement.
Entitlement. Okay, very good. Yeah. Yeah. And
probably, how do you, see someone who is low guilt, impulsive person? What kind of mannerism this person may be exhibiting? Doesn't have a care in the world. Does what he wants.
Self-centered.
Self-centered. It doesn't want to be
Kim,
controlled.
self-centered.
This is Cherie. He likes freedom and doesn't want to be controlled and told what to do.
Yeah. And so she married someone who is
Controlling.
Yeah. So how? Do they remain
He
married?
wants out. He wants out. Or he
Opposite
seeks attention
attracts.
outside. So he seeks attention outside.
Yeah. That's true. Who said that? Yeah.
Cherie here.
Cherie. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. When his wings are clipped at home, then he needs to find somewhere else where he can fly. That doesn't give him the right to do that, but that's his behavior, that's his entitlement. Now, if they don't know about their own personal entitlement or their own personal behavior, they're bringing this into the marriage, and he doesn't understand why she is so flustered about him, talking to the female gender and all that. So, what's the big deal? It's like, what's wrong with you? It's not what's wrong with me. So what kind of childhood that Mrs. X had? Comfortable, like her husband?
No, uncomfortable. Cherie here.
Yeah, uncomfortable. And what was her reaction to the discomfort? Did she swallow it in, or did she throw it out?
She's expressive.
Okay. Aggressive and attention seeking. Okay. So what happened during her adolescent years? She has, yeah, as an adult, she has what we call the triple A, type A, anger, anxiety. At least she's a very energetic person. She's like on the go all the time. And she married someone who is like, what's the problem? Opposite attracts. But after a few years of marriage, opposite attacks. Somehow opposite, attract to each other. Then after a few years of marriage, opposite attacks. Right? He wants her wing. Okay, that's what Robin said. High social rejection. Yeah, there's something that is quite evident in her adolescent years, isn't it? She doesn't feel socially accepted, and she is what has impulsivity, and she's also very angry as a young teenager. And I like what Tristan just said. She micromanage. What do you say of a person who micromanage? Why do a person micromanage?
The person wants to have control. Cherie here.
And so when you are micromanaging and you are, looking over the shoulder of your husband, yeah, basically want to be in control, anxious, low trust, that's great. Then you are putting this on someone who also has his freedom, to enjoy his freedom since young, since when he is young. Well, what do you think? Should they go their separate ways?
Yes.
Yes. Eventually, they will go their separate ways.
Yes, Shireen here. Mrs. X is also very impulsive. So it's also likely that Mrs. X also wants out eventually.
Yeah. And she's a type A too, and she's impatient. If she wants out by what, 10 years from now or when? She's the
It
jailer.
depends.
She's not
It depends. It depends. If Mr. X is like insisting on out, she might also say, okay, just out lah.
Yeah. Actually, in this case, they didn't really make it. They realize the differences in their background and the baggages that they brought into. She has possibly a lot of soul ties, and where his soul is tied very differently from hers. Hers is, her family that she came from doesn't have, her childhood wasn't very comfortable, like the parents were divorced and things like that. And then that's why, she got socially rejected because it's a stigma for her that her parents are divorced. So during parents teachers day, none of her parents show up and things like that. So that's they came for counseling because they want to give it a go, but then in this case, after trying the MI and all that to try and change, they need to do individual therapy in that sense. But for her, it's hard, and for him, it's like, why would I want to do that? Why do I want to change my lifestyle? I'm enjoying my life. I can do anything I want. And so when they refuse, when he refused, she refused, they're not willing to work. And, we feel that it's too much to work on. Therefore, they went their separate ways. Very unfortunate. So I just want to share with you that not all sessions that we have with couples will end up successfully, because it's more challenging to do family therapy or marriage therapy because you're dealing with two very different people, individual, and then the dynamics are very, very different. And so you have to be on your toes all the time, and then you have to be the one, trying to be the referee. And it's not easy to be a referee. Comment and question?
Dr. Todd, Shireen here. My question is, what if one party doesn't see anything wrong? I mean, like, okay, husband and wife, right? Then let's say, for example, the husband doesn't see anything wrong. There's no need to see counseling, and the marriage is okay, working fine. But it's the other party that nitpicking, and this is not right. That is not right. So what do we do?
It's usually the case in family therapy or marriage therapy, because obviously there's always one who is in denial or don't feel that hey, there's nothing wrong with our marriage. I mean, this the normal husband and wife squabbles. Why do we have to pay and see somebody and share about our intimate knowledge about ourselves to somebody else? It's usually there's always one party who may not want to be answered, and usually it is the man who doesn't want to. That's the case. 80% of the time, the man doesn't want to be seeking counseling for some reason. I think it's the male ego, right?
Also, men don't see problems, don't see as problem, but maybe women more emotional and they see some issues as issue.
Yes, men saw it that I can fix this myself. I don't need someone else's help. Because you see, the home is the last frontier of the man's domain. Now, the men have several domains in their life. The career is the first domain. Usually they put their career first. And unfortunately, when they put a career first, then the second domain will be, the family becomes secondary. I work so hard so that I can feed the family. After a while, it evolved into my work become my life. right? Initially, I might go out to treat my family, but after a while, it is about my career, it's about my position, it's about my status, and then my work becomes my life, then my family becomes secondary. Then this is usually how marriages break apart because the priority kind of change, and so I can fix my office problem. I am the CEO, I am the manager, I'm the supervisor. I think I can fix my own home. I don't need someone else to come in and fix my family because this is my home. This is my domain. This is my final domain. Especially if my career is not working out, then guess what? The attention goes back to the home as a domain, and therefore they want to fix this. And when they want to fix this, they fix this based on their own ideology of how it is to be fixed. And usually, when they are trying to fix the problem, they actually cause more problems. But they don't see it, unfortunately. Of course, you don't have this problem in your marriage, right? You look like perfect people.
So how, Dr. Tope? How do we counsel this kind of couples?
Well, I think we must. The whole thing is that you must know what you are doing. You can only help when they are willing to be helped. And when they are not willing to be helped, you can offer MI and look at possibilities that they can look at. But if they still remain unwilling and one party remain unwilling, then we can only help the person who is willing. That means we go into individual counseling as a result of that. Because then we try to help the individual without mentioning about the spouse who's not in the room. How can we help this person to be propped up to be able to stand on his or her feet, even in the event of separation, or how they can learn new communication skills and conflict resolution skills that we're going to learn on Thursday. And then we, then do some role play with the client. This is how we speak, and this is how my personality and how we can change. Maybe if we can change some of our mannerism in our speech, perhaps you can change some dynamics. If you can change and your husband is not here, and if you can change your mannerism and you can be more receptive to what's going on, maybe something can be changed in your marriage. But there's no guarantee when one party is not there. So usually when one party is not there, I would say that, look, it's very unfortunate that your spouse is unwilling to come. But I'm very concerned about your emotional state. I know that you really want this marriage to work, and that's why you're here, and you want your spouse to be here. But I'm concerned about your emotional instability. But if we can spend time working on you and with you, and then to help you to be able to stand on your feet, and then be composed in your thoughts, so that you can make quality decision and not emotional ones. I would be willing to be here to help you to do that, as long as you're willing to participate in this. So what I'm doing is we do an agenda setting. When the husband and wife is not together, then we have to set the agenda, what I can do, rather than what they want me to do. Because if you don't set the agenda, they set the agenda for you. Can you call my husband? Can you do this? And tell my husband that he's wrong and all that. So we become messenger. No. We cannot do that. Okay, we're not messenger. It's as long as your husband is not here, I cannot help your marriage, but I am concerned about you right now. So rather than say you're the problem and you're going through a lot of problem and and you need help, that can be quite blunt. You can say that I am very concerned about your status right now, your state of affairs right now. And if there is a possibility that we can work together to help you feel better and to help you to be able to be calmer and be more composed so that you can make your own quality decision as a result of that, I'll be willing to walk alongside with you to do that. Is it to change the willing party to IR? Yeah. Did I use the term correctly? Yes, you did. So once they are able, then we find out who has a, remember the willingness and ability. Now find out who has the better competency to become the IR, yeah, the identified resolver. To then, start with this person. Why not you start this? One of the methods of marriage family therapy is called the miracle question. The miracle question. That means you ask. This is actually formulated by a Korean psychologist. Her name is Insu Kim Bird. She has since passed on. So she came up with this brilliant question. They call it the miracle question, with two couple who are willing to work. They must be willing to work. Then this question will work. And so the question is, if now I don't believe she's a Christian or whatsoever, but she came up with this idea called miracle question.
Hi, Mom. I thought God made all these thick.
Oh, what was that? Okay, so she would ask the patient. I usually did this with my couples and so, and it worked wonderfully. Of course, you gotta. The key is that they must be willing. Once they're willing, then you can pose this question to them. You say, "If God, while you are sleeping, God worked a miracle in both your lives. While you were sleeping, God was at work, and He created a miracle while you're working." Okay. Now, if that is true, if God is working on both of you while you're sleeping, when you wake up, what was the first thing you will look for on your spouse? That to feel that, yeah, God has made some changes, made some, was at work while I was sleeping. What was the first thing that you will notice about your spouse? Who wants to start this? And usually you get the IR, the person that you identify as the identified resolver to start this. Why don't you start this? If God were to make a miracle or create a miracle while you are sleeping, and He performed that while you are sleeping, and you woke up the next morning, what was the first thing that you will notice about your spouse and say, indeed, it was a miracle? What would it be the first thing that you notice about your spouse? And usually you said, well, she will smile. Oh, great, good. Okay, that means all this while she has not been smiling while they wake up. It's a miracle that she smiled. Hey, come on, everybody, if you're married, wake up in the morning and smile, okay? And then I turn to, let's say, the wife now. I said, okay, sorry, I said, okay, she's assuming she smiled, what would your response be? I smile back low. Wow, okay, that's Singaporean, huh? I smile back low. Okay. Then I ask this guy, okay, you notice something different about him because he smiled at you. How would your response be? I smile back low. Ayo, smile back like that. Well, why not we move a step further rather than smiling, all right? Yeah, like, hold hands, maybe kiss each other and all that, because something happened, right? If you notice the change in that person, you reinforce the change in that person rather than ignore the change. Rather than ignore the, the behavioral change or miracle and all that. So why not why not go on beyond? If you smile, then what must you do? And if you do this, then it creates a change, because we call this creating an exception to the norm. The norm is the downward spiral, the vicious cycle that they are going on. And suddenly there's a smile. When there's a smile, you jam into the vicious cycle, and then you create a new cycle. You create a new positive cycle. Now this method is called miracle question. The miracle question. The one who came up with this is called, her name is Insu Kimber, a Korean American. She's a very small, petite woman. I set her in one of her lessons, but she's very calm, very quiet, very unassuming. I thought this question was powerful, powerful. But then it can only work when we receive a commitment from both parties that they're willing to work. What if the person says she cannot see anything or she see something negative? Then, you're still looking for the negativity. That means your mind is still looking for that biasness about your spouse. Now, I'm talking about a miracle that takes place. I mean, something must have changed. And it's in your imagination, what would change in your spouse's countenance? Let's assume there's a miracle. So you're going to push and push a little bit further away. If they don't see anything positive. All right. Any question before we close? It's 10:18. You need to go to bed. What's your take home today? Nothing is so straightforward. Does that show that she is feeling very hopeless towards the marriage situation? Be a killer, then be a pastor, then be a pastor. Killer, then be a pastor. Robin, you set the trend. Is it to change the ruling party? Yeah, okay, that's marriage counselor is capital. It is motivational using what we learn MI. Learning to read the draft data and analyze it. The counseling to be successful client must be willing, yes. Especially more so for marital counseling, because we are looking at two different parties. When one is not willing, then you got to really do the MI. You got to be very good with the MI to make sure that the two of them are committed. Otherwise, we are wasting our time. You're wasting your time. And you must do an individual counseling with one of the willing parties in the marriage. All right, on Thursday, please, if you can, attend it, because I'm going to play the video of my session with the client. Remember the man who wants to restore the marriage, even though the wife is, staying apart and staying away from the family. Actually, she's staying with a man, and she still wants her back. And so you will see, him describing the situation and all that. So on Thursday, we're going to play that. And I'm not going to put that up on the video on the website after we play that, because it's like a very private thing, and we don't want this to be in the wrong hands as we put up on the website. People can download it and play on YouTube and all that, which is not what we want. So you can only watch it, listen to it live while you attend this lesson. So if you are wanting to watch it on video after the lesson, well, we are not going to put it up, okay? So you're going to watch this session live with me and the client. They are, they are willing to allow this to be recorded, which is a good thing, because then we can help our students to learn from sessions like this to become better counselors next time. All right, so Thursday night, 7:30, and then we're going to play the video, and then we're going to discuss, and we're going to go on to do, communication conflict skills in the marital family situation. Okay. MI is not easy, but I think we can practice. We can practice. Once we start practicing, then it becomes second nature to us. Yeah, don't give up. It's a communication skill. It's not a technique. Don't give up. So use what if and use persuasive skills. If you can go into YouTube and learn about persuasive skills and all that, there's tons of people who actually come out who have actually produced such videos on things like that. Okay, it's about persuading someone who's not willing initially to come into the session. That's what it is all about. Good night, everybody, and one.
How about homework?
Thank you.
Tutup? Any homework?
You're asking for trouble.
Ayah, don't ask homework lah.
You're supposed to upload, right? The child one, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to do that, but the homework will be after watching the Thursday video. That's why I'm wanting to show the video on Thursday, because after that you're going to give me your analysis about this and your resolution towards it. Then on the last day of this course, I will play the session the following session with this client, how I have to resolve their problem. Okay, but on Thursday you will listen to the first session, and then you will give me your analysis.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Fred.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dr.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. Good night.
Okay, let's go, Mimi.